Savvy regards once again to the staff of Nemata, as well as to guests and visitors to the campus. This is the Maine Professor, John Lash, founder of the Sophianic School of Arts and Sciences. There was never a Russian Revolution. The Bolshevik Revolution was an assault, a genocidal assault on the Russian people, a takeover of the Tsarist regime at the time, and a takeover of the entire country and all the resources of the country, and brought the entire country into ruination and resulted in the deaths of something like 70 million people, according to Solzhenitsyn. I've known that for a long time. Since my teens, I've been really fascinated by the Russian Revolution. And I felt an empathic connection with Russia since my teens. And perhaps it's out of that empathic connection that comes back to me today when I'm reading Fomenko that I can say what I'm going to say now. I am convinced that the psyche of the Russian people, that super ethnos of the Slavic Russian races, with its many sub-races and ethnicities, certainly the greatest super ethnos on the planet Earth. I am convinced that those people underwent a terrible nightmare of harm. That, which is obvious, of course, historically speaking, but I'm talking about at the psychic level, in the soul of the people. And I, today, can feel the soul of the Russian people. And what I feel is that it is haunted and harmed. It is haunted and wounded, and deeply wounded. The identity of the Russian people, their connection with Mother Russia, with the soil of the land. I've often pointed out that the Bolshevik monsters decided to take down Russia at that very moment when the Sophianic mystique was emerging naturally and organically among the Russian people. A sense that the deep core of the moral and the psychological and spiritual makeup of the Russian people has been deeply wounded, crippled in some fashion. And I'm inclined to say that the Russian people have been, in some respect, driven mad. You find this theme of madness, of course, in Dostoevsky, Diary of a Madman, or is that Gogol? Well, several Russian writers wrote about madness, and a great number of famous characters in Russian novels are mad. They are insane. They are morally and intellectually insane. You see that motif emerging through the 19th century with the great novelists such as Dostoevsky. And I am pretty certain that the madness of the Russian people is a vivid historical example of what I have been calling lately the moral and material dialectic. In some units on Nemata, I've been discussing the satanic head of Cetus and the significance of the constellation of Cetus. I've explained that it represents a dual attack on the divine experiment on this planet, a dual assault. There is a material assault and there is a moral assault. The moral assault associated with the five-pointed satanic head of Cetus drives individuals, communities, and nations into moral degradation and moral and intellectual destabilization, and ultimately into moral insanity. And I venture to say that when all is said and done, that's probably where Fomenko's work is coming from. It's like a scream coming out of a nightmare, which he paints in his art, if you can call it art. It's like a long, trepidating scream that's coming out of an historical nightmare. And that, if that is so, it would account for the fact that so much of his work is incoherent and nonsensical